Hi everybody, here's a video on how to use Logic sampler instruments to bring in audio and to create a MIDI instrument out of that. So I have a new project here. I'm going to bring in a couple audio samples that are recorded. I just had a field recorder and I recorded some sounds outside. Now, like any audio, I could drag it into this project area. I could drag it into a track. I could drag it over to the actual track list to create a sampler instrument, or perhaps the Alchemy synthesizer. That's a new thing that you can quickly create instruments that way. But I'm going to go ahead and just bring it in. I'm going to do the long way. I'm going to find my files. I had one called basket drag, and I'm going to hold down command so I can select non-consecutive files. And also I had one called metal table drag. So I've got them both selected. Click add, click done, and now they're both there. So again, I could drag this into a track. I could also drag it into this side panel. And you see that when I, do that again. When I drag it over here, you see I've got lots of options over here. I've got two quick sampler ones, a Drum Machine Designer, and then Alchemy. We will later get into using Alchemy as a synthesizer for some advanced synthesis, where we can also bring in some audio waveforms. So I'm just going to drop it onto Quick Sampler. That's the easier one. And the new Quick Sampler instrument opens. Logic actually now has two samplers. One's called Quick Sampler, one's just called Sampler. The sampler is really for doing multi-samples. You have lots of recordings of a particular instrument that you want to bring in and do more complicated mapping for that. If you just have a single sound like this, the Quick Sampler is more than capable and is probably your easiest bet to do. Now I'm also going to open up, I'm going to go to View, and I'm going to open up Window, and I want to open up my my keyboard musical typing, which is Command K, just so you can kind of see what notes I'm playing. I'm going to use my little computer keyboard to play the notes. So I can see my waveform, and I haven't edited this, so it has a lot of sound at the beginning that needs to be taken out. I could have edited it first and then brought it into the sampler, but I can do a lot of editing here too, so it doesn't really matter. If I play a key, okay, so there's the whole sound. Now, of course, it took a while to really hear it because the beginning was kind of like getting the microphone ready. So clearly I need to drag this over to where the waveform begins, somewhere around there. So I can, if with my MIDI keyboard, or in this case my computer keyboard controlling the notes, I can adjust where that is. If I can't quite get a good place to start and I hear like a little clip or a pop, I've also got these little fade things that I can kind of just fade in slightly, and that might make for a cleaner type of sound. Now, I made this a really long type of sound, which I don't necessarily need it to be this long. Maybe I actually only like part of this in the middle, like this sound. Maybe I want to create an instrument from that. Let's get this fade out of there. So I'm going to get that kind of right on it. And I'm going to make that, obviously, can be a lot shorter. I may not even need all of that. Maybe I'm going to take the second one. I'll make it so I can sustain it. Now I can also click the zoom buttons like you have within the arrange area. So if I want to see more of the waveform up close or higher, I can do that. That's easy to do. Now if I click on the sample, I get some more options. I can make the playback, I can make it reverse, or forward. I can also make it loop or not. So right now by default it doesn't loop, it plays through. As long as I'm holding down the key, it's going to play through the whole sample. Obviously if I let go of the key, it's going to stop playing the sample. But I'm going to maybe make it go forward with the loop, which means I need to now find a loop point. I probably don't want it to loop the entire thing. I may need to find somewhere in here, you can see the yellow part's the loop. This is probably going to be hard to find a non-noticeable type of loop. You'll see what I mean. It's not too bad, but it kind of needs to to fade in, or needs a better point where we don't kind of hear it rhythmically starting over again. little better, but you still kind of hear it. Now, if I don't really ever want a note to be held, it doesn't really matter. I don't need it to loop at all. I can say no. But notice that you can also make the loop reverse. So I can do something like this. So every time it loops, it's doing it in reverse motion. So various ways you can control that or not have it loop at all. So that's pretty simple. And notice as I play higher notes, I can hear the pitch change. However, you probably can tell that the sample is slowing down or speeding up in order to make that pitch change. If I go really low, you might really start to notice that change. You can, the same thing, if I have this selected and I see these things in kind of in yellow, I have this flex time that is pretty cool in the sampler. I can click that and I can make sure it's following the tempo. I can change the speed. But now no matter where I play on the keyboard, it's going to try to pitch it up or pitch it down but keep the same speed of the original audio. So it's a little more consistent sounding. I can also then slow it down. I can really slow. Which would be kind of a cool effect. And of course I can also speed it up 4 times as fast. Whatever you'd want to do. I'm gonna put it on halftime. Okay, so that's simple enough. And if I was done, I could just, create something. I could play with this particular instrument. But I also have some built-in stuff. If you remember some of your synthesis type of basic knowledge, you have things like low-frequency oscillators that I could make it oscillate. In other words, I could modulate a certain point. I could make my filter open and close. I have a filter, so I could actually filter this. It's set by default to be a low-pass filter. So you can hear I'm filtering out the higher frequencies, but I also have band pass and high pass, lots of different filters I can do. Let's see with this gritty one. And of course I could have more resonance. And as you're kind of moving this, if you say, oh, that's kind of cool the way it did this. Well, that's what I can use an LFO for. I can say LFO, you have to assign it. So I'm going to go to my modulation matrix and I can say I want my LFO to control my target. That is my filter cutoff. And this is like the amount. You can see that orange over there on the right. How intense do you want it to go back and forth? And then I just need to change my speed. Maybe make that more intense even. I also have an envelope, so if I want this to kind of more like a slow attack. So slow you barely hear it. Now, by the way, if your audio file that you bring in is a little weak in its signal, you could, of course, bring up the fader in your track, but that is only going to go so far. You might need to go into your audio effects. You might need to go down to utility and choose gain, and you can just make the signal a little bit stronger. You should have to be careful because it really increases the sound very quickly when you move that knob. But that's a little bit better with my volume. Okay, so let's say I like that. I can adjust pitch, by the way, if I don't feel like it's in tune, or it can try to figure out the actual note, but however you want to do that. Well, let's take this other sound. So I've got an instrument. I can record in the track just like a MIDI instrument would go. In fact, let's just do something. I've got my click track on. So I'm making some kind of weird bass type sound, I guess. Okay, that timing was a little weird. I'm going to make that a 16th note. The whole thing's off because of latency while I'm recording these videos. Okay, that works. Now, of course, because like any other instrument, I can naturally get out of here. I can naturally add some effects. So if I want something, I've got my gain first, of course, to boost the signal, but maybe I want to add some delay to that. So I'm going to add some maybe tape delay. Let's turn on our cycle mode. Whatever, do that to taste. Okay, let's do this basket drag. So I'm going to do the same thing. I drag it into this kind of blank area, quick sampler. Sorry, this thing's kind of in the way. Let me move it out of the way. Get out of the way. Drag that over so I can have my choices. I'm going to do quick sampler again, original. So I can play. I've got my little keyboard up so I can play the notes. And this is also very soft, so I want to go over to my audio effects. Already got gain that I use, but it is down there in utility. There we go. Just get it loud enough to use. So what part of this sound should I use? Maybe I like this last bit. Let's. And again, I can decide, do I want that to loop or not? Do I want it to follow the tempo, or sorry, to do the flex where the pitch is going to be kind of even? That was interesting. Sorry, it's because I have it on one shot. You can actually move to classic. Now I have loops and I have various stuff. That still is acting kind of weird. Strange. Interesting. Not sure why that's doing that right now, but again, I can do various stuff. That's playing the note, but then having a loop set point over and over again. I suppose you could do that. I don't know exactly how to use it. Boy, that is some weird glitchy stuff happening. Let's do this maybe with a band pass. No idea if that would be useful for something, but I suppose I could do that. So again, I can record it against this. Whatever, that was a weird thing. But you can get some really interesting things going on here. Of course, maybe once I start adding some effects, I've created something really interesting. So sampling's really fun. It's something that you could suddenly start doing some sampling and playing with this instrument, and suddenly an hour has gone by and you're just, where has the time gone? So it's a lot of fun to kind of just try these different stuff. You just need to experiment. But Logic's new quick sampler is a great way to start because it is so simple to use, especially if you are just using single samples like this. So give that a try and see how you like it.